How are you? First and foremost, sincerely, I'd like to thank JOE.ie for actually not just putting this on the agenda, but doing it with such humanity and sensitivity and passion. I think in the last couple of weeks and months, we've realized the true extent and power of new media to influence our society and the thoughts within our society. But I haven't really written much down here. I don't tend to write speeches down. I don't do slides. I don't do statistics. I really try to just think about what's motivating me or what's pissing me off on any given day. And a few things have happened in the last couple of months. I'm not here to speak about my own journey. I'm here to speak at a more macro level, what I think I'm seeing from what I do in terms of mental health activism. And there's a few things I wanted to get across. I think what's happening in Ireland is incredibly exciting. But I feel personally we've moved past the awareness phase, which is really good. We've moved past it. I think everybody's quite aware. Some people still hold stigma. Some people still hold negative connotations when it comes to mental health, but everybody is aware. What I believe we're moving into now is the what the fuck are we going to do about it phase. And that's the phase where most work has to be done. Because although these issues are very complex, the solutions aren't. And that's what's so infuriating, watching a completely and utterly rudderless government on this particular issue. It's infuriating because there's research there, there's proof, there's facts. And not just facts, there's blatant evidence of things that need to be done and done now. And unfortunately, one of the major strangleholds of this country, and has been for too long, is bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is slowing this down. And some of the horseshit that I've listened to in the last couple of months, it would actually genuinely make Donald Trump look like a complete genius. That's what we're dealing with. But I want to talk about a few things, if I can. I think this is an incredibly exciting position we're all in. But I've noticed a couple of things in the last couple of months and weeks. And something I think we have to become aware of. Absolutely. Because everybody's in this room because you care about mental health and what's happening in Ireland. And this is a message I really want to try and help travel. Mental health is moving where it needs to move, in the public perception, in a very real way. When I say public perception, I mean the people on the street, to the government, to the media. It's now in the spotlight. And that's a good thing, but we have to look out for the dangers here. And the dangers are starting to creep in already. Straight away, we're noticing divides. We're noticing people going, he's wrong, or she's wrong, or that's not right, you can't say that, can't do that, or I have this, or you don't. And I get that. We all understand that. But what that is doing is creating divide. And what we have to strive for is complete cohesion, which is never completely possible, but we have to strive for it. Collectiveness. If we don't remain collective and cohesive with what we're trying to achieve, we become individuals and our voices become weaker. We have to get that into our heads. That doesn't mean that healthy debate isn't promoted. Debate's brilliant, because the reality is not one person in this country, not one person, not one psychologist, not one psychiatrist, not one doctor, not any activist, nobody has the solutions. But we have to try and get there. Nobody believes that they have the perfect solution. And anyone who perceives that that's how people think are deluded. This is not a perfect solution situation. And we have to understand that. And if we don't work together on this, and we start breaking this early in the what the fuck are we going to do about it phase, we're in trouble. Because that's what essentially people want to happen. Because if we break up, we become weaker, our voices become weaker, we don't become those annoying little feckers that march in the Dáil, we don't become those annoying little feckers that lobby government, because we're broken and we're not together. In this particular case, and I don't mean to denounce any other issue in Ireland, like water or anything else. This isn't water. This is humanity at the most deepest core level. And this is what really will truly define Ireland as a society and as people. This is what it is. How collective can we stay here? Yes, we'll fight. Yes, some people want certain things, and some people don't believe that really matters. But that's okay as well. But what isn't okay is to not understand that we all are looking for the same thing. We're looking to destroy and erode the stigma, and we're looking for basically a strategy that can promote early intervention. We're also looking for a strategy for people who are already within the services that are not treated like absolute animals. And I'll give you, I just don't want to stand here and give you the stories. Some stories some of you may be aware of. Some stories some of you may have personally experienced. But we need to get real. We can look at the early intervention thing, that's going to happen. But we have to admit our services, and I'm not talking about the people within our services because they're brilliant. And that's what spin will happen. That's how media works. When I say our mental health services are not fit for purpose, I get told, oh, they're attacking the people that work in them. I do nothing but promote. I'm trying to help those people that they're resourced adequately. I'll give you a prime example. I have a friend, a very close friend, who's a clinical psychologist and incredibly gifted at what she does. And she's left Ireland, and she's left to work for less money somewhere else. And I went, so it's obviously not about the money. I said, why did you leave? She goes, I did not train for 8 years to tell a 14-year-old teenage girl who's either suicidal or in the depths of distress that I can't see her for 12 months. And if I can't see her in 12 months, she has to drive 100 miles to see me. I'm not willing to do that. It's not humane. It defies our human rights at the most basic level. So this is what's happening. When I talk about that collectiveness and cohesiveness, we also have to look at it this way, and this mightn't go down well. We can't lock horns with our government on this. We can't. It's not the way forward. It doesn't work. Hostility, even though up to this point they've been draconian with their measures when it comes to mental health. We all know that. But right now, our options are we continue on that path of hostility, or we say to them, this is fucked, guys. If you can admit that, we can move forward. And not just do that. The government and our politicians have to park their egos and understand that they don't understand this like other people, like Pieta House, like the Consoles, like the Aware. These are people who truly understand because they've been on the ground long before people like me or other people were speaking about this, long before that. Before the stigma where it was so granite-like. These awareness groups and charity groups were holding up society. But the fact is, our government need to use them now. Not just fund them, but use them and use their knowledge, their research, their understanding. And if they can do that, we have a new health minister in Simon Harris. We don't know what he's up to. We don't know, nobody knows. I don't know what he's up to. He could end up being the best health minister we ever had. We don't know. And I believe in relationship building. I don't believe fist-fighting him in the first week of office is a great call. I like to assume that this guy wants to try and do something. I'd also like to assume that this guy hopefully has the power and it isn't being defined by civil servants and other people. This has to be the core priority of what is happening. Our mental health in this country is on the ground. We're struggling. We really, really are. And people, a man said to me a couple of days ago, he went, and he didn't mean it in an ignorant way, to be fair to him, but he said, Jesus, everyone's depressed now, everyone's anxious, everyone has a problem. And I went, no, everyone's just talking about it now, man. That's the difference. And we don't need horse shit like that. We've lived in that decade and those generations for too long. So what I'm trying to say, and the message, and the core message of what I'm trying to say is that how do we, and I'm not saying I know how to, I'm asking ye, and asking people who might be listening to this, how do we keep as collective and cohesive and strong as we can? How do we keep that collective? Because it's working. We saw the reaction to a picture posted in the Dáil for the mental health statements a couple of weeks ago, where there was 4 or 5 people. Yes, and I understand, to be fair, the Dáil works, it's a little bit more complex than we all understand. There was more than 4, there was actually 40, which is still terrible. But that was the picture. And I got essentially a few people then went, listen, that's fair and a misrepresentation. That's not how the Dáil works. Well, number one, the Dáil doesn't work very well. You've got to reform that shit fast. Because who was the gobshite who called a mental health statement call in the middle of a negotiation when we didn't have a government and not expected us to got really pissed off? Who was that gobshite who made that call? Because that person probably should get another job. And that's what you got to start thinking about. And the reaction of that particular photograph wasn't because people were pissed off because there was only a few people in the Dáil talking about the welfare of our state. And if it was a wages debate, there would be, we all know it would be packed. But that wasn't why people were pissed off. People were pissed off because that was a symbolic representation of how our government have treated mental health for decades. That was a reaction of our 600-700 people who died by suicide in this country a year. That was a reaction of the Minister of Health rating a ring-fence budget of 12 million, when already our mental health budget is 6% of the health budget, which is embarrassing, considering the UK spend 14 and the World Health Organization say, at a minimum, it should be 14%. And the vast majority of that 6% goes on drugs. And I am not here to speak about the medical model. It's absolutely required in many cases. My issue is the over-reliance on the medical model and why we're not looking at the preventative model. Why aren't we looking in a real way, a macro, systematic way of bringing this into our education system and not going in and saying to the teachers, this is the way it's going to be. Ask the teachers how it has to be. What do you think it has to happen? Empower them, because they're the most important people in our society. Yet at times, this is something I've noticed. If teachers say something, people who are in the private sector, public, jump on them and attack them and go, well, you've got this and you've got that. They want you to do that. They want you to be angry with the wrong people. The teachers aren't the people who caused the recession. The teachers aren't the people who brought down the banks. They're not the people, but they love that because we react against the people we shouldn't. The guards, God forbid the Lewis drivers, we're all so angry with everybody else. And they love that because it deflects from them. So stop getting angry with the wrong people. They didn't cause the shitstorm we hopefully are starting to get through. So this is about, once again, I keep going back to cohesiveness. Mental health activism isn't about individual. If it's that, it's over. It's completely over. And I just want to see what we can do in the next couple of months in this what the fuck are we going to do about it phase. I know what I want to try and do. My teeth are in this now. I love this. I don't love it because I'm looking for some kind of, I suppose, therapeutic kind of, due to my own relationship with my mental health. There's a deep-seated passion there. Not because, I suppose, that I had dealt with these issues. It's because I'm a human and I've seen it and I respond and I see these emails I get. A woman in Galway a couple of weeks ago, some of you might have read this in the Connacht Tribune. We have to think about this for a second. And this happened. This isn't a horrible story from a film. And this is just scraping the surface. This is just giving you a tiny understanding of the mindset. Walked into A&E in Galway University Hospital. And she was suicidal and self-harming. And she was told in front of 2 witnesses to go home and take an overdose. And then we can admit you into a psychiatric unit. And only then can we. So she did. And luckily she survived. Truly and honestly, can everybody in this room understand how truly unacceptable that is? At the most basic human behavior, to do that to another person. This is happening in Ireland. You're going to hear Kat speak about the incredibly profound story that completely and utterly just knocked me over when I first heard it, about her brother, Quilcha. I'm not going to tell that story. That's Kat's story to tell. But this is happening. And when Kat told that story and she put it on JOE.ie, you realize, Jesus Christ, she's not alone. And her family aren't alone. There's hundreds of families dealing with this and going through the same system. It's just has to stop. It simply has to. I want to kind of finish off with 2 small things. I think it's important to also look at our culture. Culture has a really kind of subtle impact on society in terms of mental health. Culture and how our culture is kind of packaged can have a real impact on how people perceive and stigmatize mental health. And I'm going to give you an example. Celebrity Big Brother. For research purposes, I think you should all watch that. Because that's exactly how human beings shouldn't be. Watch that show and act the complete opposite, and you'll be grand. But why I brought Big Brother, Celebrity Big Brother up, it's become very evident over the last couple of years, very clear, that the TV producers, whoever involved in making that show, are actively seeking vulnerably, mentally, people who are in mental distress to go on the show. It's become blatantly obvious. Women with bipolar disorder, Gail Porter, for example, who's openly spoken about her bipolar, just as an example. They're then putting them into a house. And you can give me the argument, well, they're well paid for it. But that's not the argument. That's not a good argument, and I'm not accepting that. They go into the house. Most people who are in potentially distressing situations might feel this is the way to alleviate them. I know in my case, I often felt I could outrun them, do something different, try something different. Maybe it'll be easier. But it never was, until I turned and faced it. But in this case, these TV producers seem to be actively looking for these people in mental distress. Then they put them into a house with 30 narcissists for 3 or 4 weeks, whatever it is, to be perfectly honest, I don't know. And then they pray for them to break down, to have a complete breakdown. And when they do have a breakdown, every fecker in the world watches. They go, amazing, our ratings are going through the roof. She's done it, she's gone, she's broken down. Personally, I find it almost consumingly sick to watch another human being in that much pain. Because you know that's what it is. Because you're well aware that they're in such a situation and they can't get out of it. And the TV producers promote this and really push it. And the reason I think this is important when it comes to culture, not only do we stigmatize mental health, we use it for entertainment. They use it for entertainment. That's just disgusting and wrong. These are things that we all have definitive power to try and change. Stop watching that stuff. Stop promoting that stuff. It's toxic, and it just fuels an already quite toxic culture in society. We can't do that anymore. It's not good for your head, and it's not good for the collective society. And I'm not just earmarking Big Brother or Celebrity Big Brother. It's the idea of doing this to people. We can't do it anymore. It has to stop. I'm going to finish off with a couple of things. I want a call to arms, I suppose. I don't know. I might know some of you here. I don't know all of you. I don't know who you are or who your friends are, but I ask you to magnify everything we do. And that's the only way this becomes a proper wellness in terms of our welfare revolution. The only way to do it is to magnify it constantly. If I hear a government speak about GDP again, and ask yourself this before I go into the GDP economics thing. I did an economics degree, so sometimes I try to pull it out of my arse when I don't even understand a thing about it. I can't even spell it anymore. But the reality, when it comes to, say, things like GDP, and you have the government saying, we're in growth. When we were the richest, greediest, most horrible shower of bastards during the Celtic Tiger, we still spent nothing on our health system. Even though we spent money, we had no strategy. We had a vision for change, which was a good strategy and a good policy, but none of it was implemented in real terms. Community access to talk therapy, preventative models. It didn't happen. Our child and adolescent mental health services. I can't speak in a lot of schools anymore, not because I don't want to, because they've no counsellor, and there's no child and adolescent mental service in the area. So you go in and you rip their band-aids off and you go, best of luck, lads. It's good to talk. And they go, who the fuck do we talk to? Who do we talk to? And their parents go, who do we talk to? Oh, this guy's really good, but you have to wait 12 months for him. This has to change, guys. Simple as that. It just has to change. It has to change fast. We are now, once again, in the what the fuck are we going to do about it phase. And this is what we're going to do. The GDP, all that shite, I'm sick of hearing it. There's an amazing quote that I want to finish with from JFK, believe it or not. And it's a quote that a friend of mine, Dr. Paul Dalton, uses a lot. And I remember first hearing him saying it, and it was like a slap in the face. I was like, that's just, you couldn't have summed it up better. And I know JFK probably had 55 speechwriters, but this is a good one. JFK says, the gross national product does not allow for the health of our children, the quality of their education, or the joy of their play. It does not include the beauty of our poetry or the strength of our marriages, the intelligence of our public debate, or the integrity of our public officials. It measures neither our wit nor our courage, neither our wisdom nor our learning, neither our compassion or our devotion to our country. It measures everything, in short, except which makes life worthwhile. I think that's a perfect way to put it. Thank you so much.